What is jazz? What does it mean to sing jazz as a singer? Like, what makes you sound jazzy? Hi, I'm Nicola Milan, and today we are going to be looking at this very question. What is jazz? Well, essentially, it is, I suppose, characteristics of music that make up the sounds of the genre. So, characteristics of music. And you've got to remember that jazz is actually a really big genre. You know, you've got a lot of different types of sounds to cover jazz completely, because you've got bebop, you've got cool jazz, you've got big band swing, and then you've also got things like that people also associate with jazz as the genre itself kind of grew into what it is today. So you've got the tuba-based sounds that you get from New Orleans back in the day, piano stride as that instrument kind of evolved as well into what is the genre. And nowadays you have all sorts of fusions. You've got funk jazz, you've got trip hop jazz, you've got pop jazz. So I'm going to break down some of the main characteristics of music that I suppose come with this genre of jazz. And if you use these characteristics, you will sound jazzy. So I suppose the biggest one would have to be swing. The rhythm, swing rhythm. In a lot of pop music, the accents are on the 1 and the 3, whereas in jazz, they're on the 2 and the 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has more movement, more forward kind of motion. And I suppose coupling with that as a singer is what we call phrasing, and a push and the pull of where you place your notes and the lyrics in the music. So you don't want to fall behind the chord progression, but you've got a lot of space where you can kind of hold back and then push things forward as you sing. So again, you're kind of creating this sense of movement and elasticity within the music. And I think that in itself, I mean, you can use these techniques in other genres like this, the phrasing and things, but it's very much found in jazz. Okay, second characteristic of jazz for a singer, and well, for everyone, is improvisation. And as a singer, this comes in the form of scat singing, so scatting, using nonsense syllables to sound like a horn player, which is cool because you don't just sing the melody and the lyrics now. You are an instrument, you are one of the band, you get to solo as well. You don't just have to sort of sit back and watch the guitarist go off. You get to go off too. So it's really exciting, and this is probably one of the most fun parts, I think, of jazz, the freedom that you have, because you are no longer just a singer. Your voice is an instrument. But it also means you really need to know your shit. Like you really need to know music theory, or at least have developed really great ears so you can tell. You need to know where you are in the music at all times. You need to be able to hear the changes in the chord progressions so that you can alter your notes accordingly. So what you do fits. But just to give you an example, Honeysuckle Rose, instead of singing, every honeybee fills with jealousy when they see you out with me. I don't blame them, goodness knows. Okay, so you can turn your voice into a horn, like a saxophone or a trumpet, and kind of use nonsense syllables, and try and sound like a horn. God, I can't play the piano. Anyway, you get the idea. I would also say microphone technique is important for jazz. By the way, I hope you can't hear. There's next door have a puppy and it is just going off. It's really cute. It's like a little kelpie, but I think they've gone out, so it is crying. So I hope you don't hear that, and apologies if you do. So microphone technique, being able to sing with a really broad dynamic range. Because I kind of feel that in a lot of pop music, especially nowadays, it's kind of like all one level. It's either just belt or kind of down here or whatever. But, you know, and that's not all the time, but in jazz, you really need to, you've got to tell the story. You need to have a full dynamic range, and being able to use the microphone properly, it's part of that, because we do use some kind of like husky, smoky low notes, and like having the microphone closer will allow you to bring those out. And then, you know, when you are belting, you need to be able to learn to bring the microphone back. I mean, you could say that a lot of different genres need microphone technique, but I think in jazz it's very required. Next characteristic would be more complex chords, and so you've got extensions on the chords, and for a singer this means really developing your musical hearing, so that if the keys play or whatever becomes your dominant instrument, because you tend to find that you either listen to the bass or you listen to the guitar or the piano. For me, I always listen to the piano, and I think that's because I started learning the piano myself. If they start playing like a funky chord progression, it may have a little bit of dissonance in there, so clashing notes and things, and it may put you off because it's not just it's not just a C major triad, it's got an extension in there. It's got the B, and they may strengthen that somehow, by playing it on the bottom. I don't know, whatever they might do. But you, as a vocalist, need to make sure that you don't get put off by some unusual notes that are kind of coming through as the chords become more complex. And lastly, I would say, and I think this is also I think they're all important, but this is actually really important for jazz. It's the element of surprise, and it's kind of not singing things the exact same way every single time. So if you're finding that you're singing a song with the same melody and you're holding the notes for the exact same length of time, and your phrasing's the same and your volume's the same every single time, you are no longer creating, you are now echoing. And as a jazz musician, part of the most fun of playing jazz is this fluidity that you have. It's like, people call jazz like one of the most purest forms of art, because you're there live to watch it. It gets done once and it's never done the same way ever again. And that is a really pure art form. And so, if you're singing the same way every single time, and you have kind of these improvised melodic bits that you've heard another singer create, and then you're pinching them, and then you're singing the song the exact same way with the same riff every single time, that's echoing, it's not creating. So yes, knowing your stuff, practicing improvisation, changing the rhythm, having fun with the musicians that you're performing with, because you are one of the band, you are not just the singer, you are an instrument. And so you need to be aware of what the bass is doing. You need to be aware of what the keys play, what the drummer is doing, and be able to chop and change and interact with them as the music's going. And that is, fun. It's fun. And that's what makes it really cool. Yes. So I hope that gives you a general idea of what is jazz and how it relates to you as a singer. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. If you're on my Patreon, I have a little printout cheat sheet of these for you, which you can download. I will leave the link below. I think that's for what tier is that? I think that's Baron, Baroness tier and up. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, because it really does help. Subscribe for more tutorials on how to sing jazz and blues. And I also have another channel where I post kind of creative, motivational content. You can also hear me sing. Yes, and thanks for this time. I will see you again. You'd think I would have gotten my wrap up like this by now, but I'm always Oh, and I don't know, like verbal diarrhea. Just blabbering on about whatever. Anyway, I'm just going to leave it there. Have a great day. I'll talk to you again soon. Embryonic fills with jealousy when they send you out with me. I don't blame them. Goodness knows you're my honeysuckle rose. If you would like to learn more with me, join me in my 6-week Singing Academy, an intensive singing training program for beginner singers. The link is in the description.